Hello students, we are going to start our fifth chapter from history, and your fifth chapter is rulers and buildings. So these are the glossary words what you have to write down in FNB for fifth chapter. First one is Hozai Sultani, that is King's Reservoir. Second one Diwan-i Am, the ceremonial hall of public. Next one is Diwan-i Khas, the ceremonial hall of private audience. Next one is Baolis. Large stepped wells are called as Baolis. Next one is Mahamandapa. Mahamandapa is an ornamented main hall of temple. Next one is Garbhagriha. Garbhagriha is the main shrine of the temple. Next we are having Charupalam, that is village near the temple. Next is Badshah, emperors. Gurudwara, meaning a place of worship and congregation of the Sikh, is known as the Gurudwara. So these are the glossary what you have to write in FNB. These are the important topics that we are going to learn in this chapter: engineering skills and construction, building temples, mosques and tanks. Why were the temple destroyed? Garden, tombs and forts. And the last topic is region and empire. So this is the important topics that we are going to learn in this chapter. This is the flow chart what you have to draw in your FNB after writing down the topics of important notes. So flow chart, mainly the Mughal rulers personally interested in architecture, that is Babur, Humayun, Akbar, Jahangir and Shah Jahan. So we are going to learn about the rulers and about the buildings what they have constructed. So here we starts our fifth chapter, that is rulers and buildings. So here the figure 1 shows first balcony of the Qutub Minar. See, here is the first figure in your textbook. So this building is known as the Qutub Minar. The Qutub Minar is 5-story high. It means it is a 5-storied building. The band of inscription you see are under its first balcony. The first floor was constructed by Qutbuddin Aibak. As we said that this building is having 5-story. So first floor was being constructed by whom? Qutbuddin Aibak. Now rest was being constructed by Iltutmish around 1229. Over the year it was damaged by lightning, earthquakes, and it was repaired by number of rulers like Alauddin Khalji, Muhammad Tughlaq, Firoz Shah Tughlaq and Ibrahim Lodi. So they constantly looked after this building after it was being constructed. Now there are many special features about this building. Qutbuddin Aibak had this constructed around 1199. So you can see the pattern created under the balcony by a small arcs. You can see over here. I can show you. Wait. See, this is the building. So this is the arc which you can see on the screen and in the picture, and below that you can see this inscription. So this inscription is in which language? Arabic language. So these patterns are created under the balcony. They are having very small arches and geometrical designs, and 2 bands of inscription as I have shown over here, that is written in Arabic language. Now surface of the minar is very curved and angular. You can see this is the curve, and as well as every angle you can see over here. So it is curved also, and as well as angular also. So this, you can say, this placing an inscription on such a surface required great precision. Precision over here means like Arabic language you have seen, to write something on the building. So it is very minute detail they have given to this construction. So only the most skilled craft person could perform this kind of task. It is said like that. Because to write something, you can see over here, to write something in Arabic language like this in the building, that is very minute detail what they have given. You can see the arcs and even the small windows over there, the small patterns over there under the balcony. So it is a very minute detail that is being given by many of the skillful craft person at that time. So remember that very few buildings were made of stone or bricks 8,000 years ago. Generally we are having one storied or the ground floor buildings, and during this 13th century the Qutub Minar, this was considered a great building constructed over that period of time, and even that of 5-storied building. So everyone was amazed that time to see this Qutub Minar. Now between the 8th and 18th century, kings and their officers built two kinds of structures. So what are the two kinds of structures? The first were forts, palaces, gardens, residences and tombs. Tombs means where the kings are buried, and over that burial they are constructing the building, the grandiose building in remembrance of that particular king. So they are safe, protected and grandiose palaces of rest in this world and the next. So firstly they are building the fort, palace, garden, residence and tombs. Now second kind of buildings were structures meant for public activity. It is for general people, and the first buildings for whom they were constructing for the rulers, you can say, places of rest in sense. And nextly second kind of building for or second kind of structure for whom they are building, they are constructing for the public activity. That includes temples, because temples, mosques, they are built for the pilgrimage to visit. Then tanks, wells, then caravanserais means the rest houses for the travelers who are coming from the far distances. So they used to settle down over here, one sort of rest houses. And also the bazaar. So these all structures are constructed for public facility. Kings were expected to care for their subjects. Here subjects means people. So king is taking care of everything which is needed by the subjects or the people of that particular kingdom. And by making structure for their use and as well as comfort, rulers hope to win their praise. So for what they are doing or what they are constructing this kind of structure for public facilities, to win their praise. Construction activity was also carried out by others, including merchants also. They built temples, mosques and wells. However, domestic architecture, large mansions, that is Haveli, of merchants has survived only from the 18th century. So generally we heard that or we came to know that kings are usually constructing this kind of grandiose building, but these structures or constructions are also being done by the merchants, mainly the rich merchants. So they also build the temples and mosques and wells for the public facility. Then for themselves they used to build the havelis, that is considered as the rest houses, but this could all only survived in the 18th century. Next we are having, that is engineering skills and construction. So before moving that topic, you can see the right hand side to your textbook. Labor for the Agra fort, built by Akbar. The Agra fort was built by Akbar. The Agra fort required 2,000 stone cutters and 2,000 lime makers and 8,000 laborers. So you can just estimate that the building which has to be constructed, the number of laborers were used, so what kind of construction they have done, and what kind of minute details were being given to that fort also. Engineering skills and the construction. Next topic, monuments provide an insight into technologies used for constructions. Take something like a roof for example. So here we are going to discuss about the engineering skills and construction on the structures, what they have done, because in the past time you see there is no degree, or they were not going to any colleges, or they were not learning, or they were not practicing under any of the superior constructor. So they were having the self skills, and this marvelous building was being constructed by many of the Mughal rulers. One of the great monuments you can say, that is Taj Mahal, and that is the attraction of our country. So that time they were not having that technology, then too also they were able to build this kind of marvelous pieces. So that in detail we are going to learn in this topic. So take something like a roof. Here we are going to talk about the roof for an example. We can make this placing wooden beams or slab of stone across 4 walls, but the task becomes difficult if we want to make a large room with an elaborate superstructure. This requires more sophisticated skills. So at the past times they don't have that iron rod nowadays what is being used to give support to the building or to the walls or to the roof. At that time they use the wooden beams or the slab of stones across the 4 walls. So the whole, you can say, the whole weight can be handled by this beams, and the structure can get the fully support. But if they want to build a large room with elaborate superstructure, so this is not possible. So this needed and more sophisticated skills. So what they have done, between the 7th and 10th century, architects started adding more rooms, doors and windows to buildings. Roofs, doors and windows were still made by placing an horizontal beams across 2 vertical columns, a style of architecture that is called as trabeate. So here you can see the 2A figure. This is screen in the Quwat al-Islam Mosque, Delhi, that was constructed in 12th century, late 12th century. And figure 2B, you can see corbel technique used in the construction of the screen. So generally in the 7th and 10th century, what they used to do, they started adding more rooms and doors as well as windows to the buildings. Now they need more and more supports. So what they started doing, at that time they were placing only the horizontal beam across the 2 vertical column. That kind of style is known as trabeate or corbelled. You can see the corbel style of constructions over here in the figure 2B. And between the 8th and 13th century, trabeate style was used in construction of what? Temple, mosque, tombs and buildings attached to the last step wells, that is boweries. You can see usually the entrance of the temples and even mosques. If you have visited temples and mosques, you can see the arc shaped entrance. So this kind of style was being called as the trabeate style. Generally it is being used in temple, mosque and tomb. Temple construction in the early, that is the Kandarya Mahadev temple dedicated to Shiva, was constructed in 999 by the king Dhangadadeva of Chandela dynasty. So this Kandarya Mahadev temple was being constructed by the ruler's name Dhangadeva, and he is belonging from the Chandela dynasty. So 3B, figure 3B, you can see the blueprint of this temple completely. This is a plan of the temple. An ornamental gateway led an entrance. So not ornamented over here, it doesn't mean it is decorated with the ornament. So it kind of design it is given to the entrance to the gateway. And the main hall, that is Maha Mandapa, that is hall. After getting into the temple, there is a large hall that is called as Maha Mandapa. So there the dancers were performing for the god and goddesses. The image of the chief deity was kept in the main shrine, that is Garbha Griha. So you can see the Garbha Griha. So this is called as Garbha Griha, and this is the hall where the dancers used to perform. So this is the plan, you can say. And the image of the chief deity, as I said, that is kept in Garbha Griha. This was the place for ritual worship where only the king, his immediate family and priests gathered. The Khajuraho complexes contained royal temples where commoners were not allowed entry. The temples were decorated with elaborately carved sculptures. So the Garbha Griha, you can see over here. So that the where the deity is being kept, the idol is kept, only the Maharaja's family or Raja's family and the immediate family, nearby their closer family and the priest, they are only allowed to gather nearby the deity. Rest others are standing in the hall. There is a certain marking where the devotees were usually used to stand over there to worship the god. So the commoners are not allowed to enter that region. So these temples were decorated with carved sculptures, etc. Now see the figure 4. The Rajarajeshwara temple at Tanjavur, this is another example, had the tallest shikhara. You can see this shikhara constructed. It is considered as the tallest shikhara of that time. Constructing it was not easy because there were no cranes in those days, and the 90-ton stone for the top of the shikhara was too heavy to lift manually. You can see this is the 90 ton. The weight of this stone is 90 ton, that is kept on the top of the shikhara. So at that time it was not possible because at that time there was no crane. So they used to lift this stone manually, and it is too heavy to just carry this thing. So what they used to do, so the architect built an inclined path to the top of the temple, placed the boulder and rollers and rolled it all the way to the top. The path started more than 4 kilometers away so that it would not be too steep. This was dismantled after the temple was constructed, but the resident of the area remembered the experience of the construction of temple for a long time. Even now a village near temple is called Charupalam, the village of incline. So how this 90 ton of stone was placed over this shikhara. So what they have done, this kind of inclined path they have constructed. So it was constructed 4 kilometers far from this top of shikhara. From here, what they started doing, from here they carried this stone by placing the rollers, boulders and rollers, and the elephants and even the human hands were being used to carry this heavy stone on the top. Later on, this path was being dismantled after this 90 ton of stone was kept on the top. So in this way, this stone was kept on the top of the shikhara. You can say at the past time there was no you can say technology, so this kind of skills were being used, this kind of minute detail they were looking into. They were having great ideas to put into such structure. So this is the way how they have constructed this grand temple. And because of this path what they have created, inclined path you can say. So this region is known as, this village is known, or the temple is known as the Charupalam. Charupalam means the supported bridge, you can say, the village of incline, because this stone was kept by the inclined path, so it was called as Charupalam. So two technologies, technological and stylish development are noticeable from the 12th century. What was that? The weight of the superstructure above the doors and windows was sometimes carried by the arc. So equally the weight was being distributed because of this arc. This architectural form was called as arcuate style. You can see figure 5a, the true arc. So the keystone, you can say central, it is put in the center, then it is supported by the other stones. It is formed in an arc form, then the other portion got the support from this arc. So the superstructure weight is carried by this arc, that is called as arcuate style. Then for this superstructure they started using limestone cement, that was increasingly used in construction. This was very high quality cement which when mixed with stone chips hardened into concrete. This made construction of large structure easier and faster. So take a look at the construction site of the figure 6. You can see here the people are carrying the logs, and even the cement, how they are cementing, cements are being used, they are carrying it on the horses, the limestone, the cements are being carried. So there are number of ways how they started the construction. 5b, you can see the two arc detailed from the Alai Darwaza, early 14th century, that is Quwwatul Islam Mosque, Delhi. So here also this arcuate style was being used. Figure 6, as we have discussed, that the painting from Akbarnama dated 1590 to 1595 showing the construction of water gate at the Agra fort. So this is the way how they used to construct at that time. So two styles we have read, that is arcuate and trabeate style. This become more popular, the arcuate style, the arc shaped style, because it can carry the weight and can hold the weight and giving the support to the whole structure. So till here just go through the chapter and to the flowchart which is given in your worksheet. The next topic, building temples and mosques as well as tanks, that we are going to discuss in the next part of video. Till then stay tuned. Thank you.